I sent my wedding invitation 6 months in advance. Venue booked, deposits paid, date circled on every family calendar. Then my sister called. She was also getting married. Same exact day, same exact time. When I asked her to change it, she laughed and said, "First come, first served doesn't apply to family. May the best wedding win." Our mother said I should be the bigger person and move my date. Our father said weddings aren't competitions. But they were wrong. My sister had been competing with me our entire lives, and this was her final play to prove she was better. So I decided to let her have her perfect day. I moved my wedding, changed everything, and on what was supposed to be my original wedding day, I showed up at her ceremony as a guest with a gift she'd never forget. What I did didn't ruin her wedding. It just made sure that everyone there finally saw exactly who she'd always been. And by the time my actual wedding happened 2 weeks later, half her guests had already RSVP'd to mine instead. The wedding invitations went out in February, 6 months before my September wedding to Daniel. Classic cream cardstock with elegant script announcing that Lauren Mitchell and Daniel Cooper requested the honor of your presence on September 14th at the Riverside Estate. We'd chosen that date carefully, a Saturday in early fall, when the weather would be perfect and the gardens at Riverside would still be in bloom. Daniel and I had been engaged for 18 months, planning meticulously, saving carefully, making sure everything would be perfect. I was 32 years old. I'd waited a long time to find the right person. Daniel was kind, steady, successful as an architect, and he loved me in a way that felt safe and real. This wedding was going to be the culmination of years of being the responsible older sister, the one who did things right, who planned carefully, who never caused drama. My younger sister Ashley was 28, and she'd been dating Trevor for exactly 7 months when the invitations went out. 7 months. They'd met at a New Year's party, started dating in January, and by February, when my invitations arrived, she'd only just introduced him to the family. I remembered thinking it was fast, but Ashley had always been impulsive. That was her charm, according to our parents. Spontaneous, free-spirited, the fun one. I was the responsible one, the boring one, the one who did everything by the book while Ashley got to be interesting. The call came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was at Daniel's apartment, both of us reviewing seating charts because we'd just gotten our first round of RSVPs back. My phone lit up with Ashley's name, and I answered with genuine happiness. My little sister and I had always had a complicated relationship, but I loved her. I wanted her in my life. "Lauren, oh my God, the most amazing thing happened!" Ashley's voice was breathless with excitement. "Trevor proposed. We're engaged!" I felt a surge of joy for her, genuine and warm. "Ash, that's wonderful. Congratulations. When did he propose?" "Last night at that restaurant downtown, the one on the rooftop. He had them put the ring in my champagne glass. It was so romantic. I'm so happy I could die." "I'm so happy for you," I said, meaning it. "Have you told Mom and Dad?" "Calling them next, but you're my sister. I wanted you to know first. And Lauren, I need to ask you something. Can I be your maid of honor? I know I said I would be when you first got engaged, but now that I'm engaged too, it feels even more special, like we're doing this together." "Of course you can," I said, touched. "I'd love that." "Perfect. Okay, I have to go call Mom. Love you." She hung up, and Daniel looked at me with a smile. "Your sister's engaged?" 7 months, I said, shaking my head. "That's fast even for Ashley, but she sounds happy." "Good for them," Daniel said, and we went back to the seating charts, trying to figure out how to arrange my complicated extended family without causing offense. What I didn't know was that Ashley's next call wasn't to our parents. It was to the Riverside Estate, asking about their availability for September 14th, and when she found out I'd already booked it, she did something I never could have imagined. The email from the Riverside Estate manager came 2 days later. "Ms. Mitchell, we wanted to reach out about a potential conflict. We've received an inquiry from an Ashley Mitchell regarding booking our venue for September 14th. She mentioned she's your sister and seemed to believe the date might be available. We wanted to confirm with you before responding to her that the date is already reserved under your contract. Please let us know how you'd like us to proceed. I stared at the email, reading it 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Ashley had called the venue? The venue she knew I'd booked? Why would she ask about my wedding date? I called her immediately. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and cheerful. Hey, what's up? Ash, did you call the Riverside Estate asking about September 14th? A pause. Then, oh yeah, I was just checking on something. Don't worry about it. Ashley, that's my wedding date, my venue. Why would you be checking on it? I mean, it's not like you own the whole day, Lauren. I was just asking. Something cold settled in my stomach. You're not planning to get married on my wedding date, are you? Why not? It's a popular time of year, good weather. I like fall weddings. Because it's my wedding date, Ashley. I've had it booked for months. You got engaged 4 days ago. And first come, first served doesn't apply to family. Besides, why does it matter? We can both get married on the same day. It'll be like a double celebration. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We can't both get married on the same day, Ash. Guests would have to choose. The family would have to choose. Mom and Dad couldn't be at both. Then I guess we'll see who they choose, she said. And there was something in her voice, something sharp and competitive that I'd heard before, but never quite this blatant. May the best wedding win. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, trying to process what had just happened. My sister, who I'd just made my maid of honor, was trying to book her wedding on my wedding date. Not accidentally, not because she didn't know, but deliberately, as some kind of competition. I called my mother. She answered immediately, already knowing why I was calling, because Ashley had apparently called her first. Lauren, sweetheart, I heard about the little conflict with the dates. Little conflict? Mom, Ashley's trying to get married on my wedding day. I know it's not ideal, but you have to understand, Ashley's so excited. She and Trevor want a fall wedding too. Can't you two just work something out? Work something out how? We can't both get married on the same day. Well, my mother said, and I could hear the careful tone she used when she was about to say something she knew I wouldn't like. Your venue has other dates available, right? Maybe you could move yours. You've been engaged longer. You've had more time to plan. Ashley's still in that excited honeymoon phase. It would mean so much to her if you could be flexible. You're asking me to move my wedding date because Ashley decided she wants the same day? I'm asking you to be the bigger person, Lauren. You've always been so understanding, so mature. This is a chance to show how much you love your sister. I hung up without saying goodbye, something I'd never done to my mother before. I called my father. Surely he'd see how ridiculous this was. Dad, did Mom tell you about Ashley trying to take my wedding date? I heard, he said with a sigh. It's unfortunate timing. Unfortunate timing? Dad, she's doing this on purpose. Now, Lauren, you don't know that. Ashley's impulsive, but she's not malicious. Maybe she just really likes September 14th. She got engaged 4 days ago. She knows it's my date. I understand you're upset, but fighting about this isn't going to help anyone. Can't you two find a compromise? The compromise is her picking literally any other date. There are 52 Saturdays in a year. But there's only one September 14th, he said, and I realized he was actually defending her. Look, you're both adults. Work it out between yourselves. Your mother and I don't want to take sides. But by saying they wouldn't take sides, they were taking Ashley's. They were making this my problem to solve instead of telling Ashley she was being unreasonable. That's when I realized this wasn't about the wedding date. This was about the exact same pattern that had defined our relationship for 28 years. And if I didn't do something now, it would define the rest of our lives. I spent that evening with Daniel, explaining the situation while he listened with growing disbelief. She's seriously trying to steal your wedding date? That's insane. It's Ashley, I said, and there was so much history in those 2 words. She's always been like this. Anything I had, she wanted. Anything I did, she had to do better. When I got into UCLA, she had to go to a more prestigious school. When I got my job at the marketing firm, she had to get a better job. When I bought my condo, she had to buy a bigger one. It's been this way our entire lives. But your parents never stopped her? My parents have never stopped her because Ashley is the golden child and I'm the scapegoat. When Ashley does something, it's charming and spontaneous. When I do the exact same thing, it's boring and predictable. When Ashley needs something, everyone drops everything to help. When I need something, I'm told to be more independent. Daniel took my hand. So what are you going to do? I thought about it. I could fight. I could insist on keeping my date and let Ashley book hers anyway, forcing everyone to choose. But I knew how that would play out. Ashley would cry to our parents about how unsupportive I was being. Our mother would call me selfish. Our father would say I was causing unnecessary drama. Half the family would choose Ashley's wedding because she was the favorite, and I'd spend what should be the happiest day of my life knowing that my own family had chosen my sister over me. Or I could move my date, give in like I always did, be the bigger person like everyone always expected me to be. Or I could do something I'd never done before in 32 years of being Ashley's older sister. I could let her win, but make sure everyone saw exactly what winning looked like. I'm going to move my wedding, I said. 2 weeks later, September 28th. Daniel looked surprised. You're just giving in? No, I said slowly, a plan forming. I'm giving her exactly what she wants, and then I'm going to attend her wedding as a guest with a very special gift. What kind of gift? The truth, beautifully wrapped and documented. Every single time Ashley has competed with me, copied me, or forced me to be the bigger person. 28 years of being second to the golden child, compiled and presented at her perfect wedding. Daniel looked concerned. Lauren, are you sure? That sounds like it could get ugly. It won't be ugly. It won't be dramatic. It'll just be honest. And if our family can't handle honesty, then maybe they don't deserve to be at my wedding anyway. What I spent the next 6 months creating wasn't just a wedding gift. It was a master class in petty revenge. And by the time I was done, Ashley's perfect day would reveal exactly who she'd always been. I called the Riverside estate the next morning and explained I needed to move my date to September 28th. The manager was understanding, especially after I explained the situation. Your sister called us 4 more times yesterday, she said. Honestly, between you and me, her behavior raised some red flags. We're happy to move your date, and we're not going to book the 14th to her if she inquires again. Actually, I said, I'd like you to tell her the 14th is available, and I'd like to help her book it. There was a pause. I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. I want my sister to have her perfect wedding on my original date. I want to help her plan it. I want to be the most supportive maid of honor she could ask for. And I'm going to need access to some information about her wedding planning as we go. Can we arrange that? Another pause. Ms. Mitchell, what exactly are you planning? Nothing illegal, nothing that will harm your venue's reputation, just making sure my sister's wedding is everything she deserves. The manager laughed, understanding dawning. I'll make sure you get what you need. Ashley called me that afternoon, breathless with excitement. Lauren, oh my God! The Riverside estate called and said September 14th is available after all. They said you moved your date. Thank you so much for being so understanding. I could hear the victory in her voice, the satisfaction of winning. She wasn't calling to apologize for trying to steal my date. She was calling to celebrate getting what she wanted. Of course, Ash, I said warmly. I want you to be happy. And you know what? I'd still love to be your maid of honor. Let me help you plan this wedding. Really? You're not mad? Why would I be mad? You're my sister. I love you. Let's make your wedding perfect. She agreed immediately, relieved that I wasn't going to fight, that she'd won without any real battle. Over the next 6 months, I threw myself into planning Ashley's wedding with enthusiasm that surprised everyone, including Daniel. I helped her choose her dress, which looked suspiciously like the one I'd originally picked. I helped her select her color scheme, which was remarkably similar to mine. I helped coordinate her vendors, her flowers, her menu. I was the perfect maid of honor, supportive and selfless, exactly what everyone expected me to be. But I was also documenting everything. Every time Ashley made a decision for her wedding, I'd casually mention how I'd been planning something similar for mine. Every time she dismissed it as coincidence, I'd smile and agree. Every time she insisted she'd thought of something first, I'd take screenshots of my earlier planning documents showing I'd chosen it months before. I compiled emails, text messages, photos, planning documents. I created a timeline showing Ashley's pattern of copying me, not just with the wedding, but for our entire lives. When I got accepted to UCLA, Ashley had to go to Stanford. When I bought my first car, Ashley had to buy a better one within weeks. When I got engaged, Ashley got engaged 7 months into her relationship. When I set my wedding date, Ashley tried to take it, but I didn't just document the wedding. I reached out to family, members, to old friends, to people who'd known us both growing up. I asked them to share their memories, their observations, their stories about watching Ashley compete with me for our entire lives. I framed it as collecting memories for a wedding gift, a sister tribute, something sentimental and sweet. And people talked. They talked about how exhausting it was watching Ashley always need to outdo me. They talked about how our parents had enabled it, always expecting me to sacrifice for Ashley's happiness. They talked about how obvious the pattern was to everyone, except apparently our family. What I created over those 6 months was something that looked like a beautiful tribute to sisterhood, but was actually an undeniable record of 28 years of competition, and I was going to present it to Ashley at her wedding in front of everyone who'd ever told me to be the bigger person. Daniel was concerned as he watched me work. "This is getting elaborate. Are you sure this is still about justice and not just revenge?" "It's about truth," I said. "I'm not making anything up. I'm not exaggerating. I'm just showing what actually happened, documented and dated. If the truth looks like revenge, maybe that says something about what Ashley's been doing all along." I'd hired a professional to create what I called a sister's journey, a beautiful digital presentation set to music, with photos and memories from childhood through present day. To anyone watching casually, it would look like a touching tribute from a sister to her bride. But every photo was carefully chosen, every memory strategically placed. There was 8-year-old Ashley copying my Halloween costume after I'd spent weeks making mine. There was 15-year-old Ashley joining the same activities I'd joined, then quitting when she didn't immediately excel. There was 20-year-old Ashley dating my ex-boyfriend 3 weeks after we broke up. There was Ashley at my college graduation, announcing her engagement to her first boyfriend in the middle of my celebration dinner. Every moment was real. Every photo was authentic. But together they told a story that no one had ever been willing to say out loud, that Ashley had spent her entire life competing with me, and our family had spent their entire lives enabling it. I also included voice messages from family members talking about memories of us growing up. Aunt Linda talking about how Ashley always wanted what Lauren had. Grandma Rose mentioning how exhausting it was watching the girls compete. Cousin Mike noting that Lauren always had to share everything with Ashley, but it never went the other way. Each comment was innocent on its own, but compiled together with 2 decades of photographic evidence, they created an undeniable pattern. The final slide was a split screen. On one side, my original wedding planning documents, dated and time-stamped from when I got engaged. On the other side, Ashley's wedding planning documents from after. She tried to take my date. Every choice she'd made was something I'd chosen first. Every detail she claimed was her original idea was something I'd planned months earlier. The presentation was 20 minutes long. Too long for most wedding speeches, but I wasn't giving a speech. I was the maid of honor. My gift would be played during the reception, during that time when people were eating dinner and looking for entertainment. The venue's audiovisual team had already been briefed. They'd play it on the big screen, assuming it was a sweet sister tribute that Ashley had approved. Ashley hadn't approved it. Ashley hadn't seen it. Ashley had no idea what was coming. The night before Ashley's wedding, I had dinner with Daniel at our favorite restaurant. "Last chance to back out," he said. "You're really going through with this?" "I'm really doing this," I confirmed. "Tomorrow, everyone gets to see what I've seen my whole life, and then in 2 weeks, we're having our actual wedding, and anyone who can't handle the truth about Ashley doesn't need to come." "What if your parents never forgive you?" "Then I guess I'll finally know where I stand. I've spent 32 years trying to earn their approval by being the good daughter who never caused problems. Maybe it's time they see what happens when the problem child isn't actually the problem." September 14th arrived with perfect weather, just as I'd originally planned when it was supposed to be my wedding day. I got ready at the hotel where Ashley was getting ready, helping her into her dress, fixing her veil, playing the supportive sister role one last time. "Thank you for this," Ashley said as I adjusted her train. "I know moving your date was hard, but it means so much that you're here supporting me." "Of course," I said, and I meant it. I was supporting her walk into the reality check she'd been avoiding for 28 years. The ceremony was beautiful. Riverside Estate looked perfect, exactly as I'd pictured it when I'd booked it for my own wedding. Ashley walked down the aisle on our father's arm, radiant and happy, getting married at the venue I'd chosen, on the date I'd picked, in a dress nearly identical to the one I'd selected. She was getting everything she'd always wanted, to be me, but better. During the reception, as dinner was served and guests settled into their seats, I stood up. The maid of honor speech was traditional, expected. Everyone's attention turned to me. I wanted to take a moment to share something special with my sister Ashley on her wedding day, I began, my voice warm and loving. Over the past 6 months, I've been putting together a tribute to our sisterhood, our history, and our journey to this moment. Ashley, this is for you. The lights dimmed, the screen lit up, and A Sister's Journey began to play. What happened over the next 20 minutes would change my family forever, and by the time dessert was served, half of Ashley's guests would be asking about my wedding date instead of celebrating hers. The presentation started sweetly. Soft piano music, adorable childhood photos of Ashley and me at ages 3 and 5, dressed in matching outfits that our mother had loved putting us in. The first narration began, my voice warm and affectionate. My sister Ashley and I have always been close. From the time she was born, I knew she'd be someone special in my life. Guests smiled, settling in for what they assumed would be a standard sentimental maid of honor tribute. Our mother dabbed at her eyes already, moved by the sweet opening. Ashley beamed at her table, soaking in the attention. Then the photos shifted. Side-by-side comparisons began appearing on the split screen. On the left, 5-year-old me in a homemade fairy costume I'd spent weeks creating with construction paper and glitter. On the right, 5-year-old Ashley in an identical costume 3 days later. The narration continued. Ashley always admired my creativity, so much so that she often wanted to share in my exact projects. A few guests chuckled, finding it cute. But I watched my Aunt Linda's expression shift slightly, recognition dawning. More photos. Me at age 10 with my first place ribbon from the science fair. Ashley at age 8, entering the science fair 2 years later with a remarkably similar project about volcanoes. Me at age 12, cast as the lead in the school play. Ashley at age 10, auditioning for and winning the same role in her school's production the following year. Me at age 15, making the varsity soccer team. Ashley at age 13, joining soccer despite having told me for years that she thought it was boring. The pattern was establishing itself, and I could see guests starting to pay closer attention. This wasn't just cute little sister admiration. This was something more systematic. The narration continued, still sweet, but with details that were starting to land. Ashley has always been inspired by the same things that inspired me. The same sports, the same hobbies, the same interests. Growing up, our parents always said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Cut to a voice clip from our mother's interview where she'd said exactly that, laughing about how Ashley always wanted to do what I did. At the time she'd said it, it had sounded affectionate, but played over images showing 20 years of identical choices, it started to sound like something else, like enabling. The presentation moved into our college years. My UCLA acceptance letter dated March of my senior year. Ashley's sudden decision to apply to Stanford dated April, after spending months insisting she was going to UC Santa Barbara to be near the beach. Side-by-side photos of our dorm rooms, decorated in eerily similar styles, despite being at different schools. A voice clip from Grandma Rose. It was always interesting watching the girls choose schools. Lauren did so much research, visited so many campuses. And then, Ashley always seemed to want to go wherever would be, just a little bit more prestigious than Lauren's choice. The room was getting quieter. The light laughter from earlier had stopped. People were watching more intently now, starting to recognize what they were seeing. My first car, a used Honda Civic I'd saved for 2 years to buy. 3 weeks later, Ashley's gift from our parents, a brand new Honda Accord. My first apartment, a studio in downtown LA. 2 months later, Ashley's one bedroom in the same building, 2 floors up, my engagement announcement. 7 months later, Ashley's engagement to Trevor, a man she'd been dating for less time than it took me to plan my engagement party. Then came the wedding section, and this was where the presentation got undeniable. Split screen, my original wedding planning documents, screenshots with timestamps from September of last year when Daniel and I got engaged, color scheme, venue choice, flower selections, menu preferences, dress style, all dated and documented with my signature and consultation receipts. Next to each one, Ashley's wedding planning documents from March of this year, after she'd gotten engaged. Identical color scheme, same venue, nearly identical flowers, matching menu selections, a dress that could have been my dress's twin sister. The narration had dropped the sweet pretense now. When I got engaged to Daniel, I spent months carefully planning every detail of our wedding. I chose September 14th at Riverside Estate. I selected a color palette of sage green and dusty rose. I picked garden roses and eucalyptus for the florals. I chose a fitted lace dress with a cathedral train. When Ashley got engaged 7 months into her relationship, she also chose September 14th. She also chose Riverside Estate, the venue I'd already booked. She also selected sage green and dusty rose. She also picked garden roses and eucalyptus. She also found a fitted lace dress with a cathedral train. On screen, messages from Ashley to the venue, trying to book September 14th, despite knowing I'd already reserved it. On screen, text messages from Ashley to our mother. Why should Lauren get first pick of everything just because she got engaged first? It's not fair. I watched Ashley's face from my position at the front of the room. She'd gone pale, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Trevor looked confused, not yet understanding the implications of what he was seeing, but our mother understood. She was standing up, looking frantically between the screen and me, her mouth open but no sound coming out. The presentation continued, voice clips from family members I'd interviewed under the guise of collecting memories. Each clip had sounded innocent in isolation. Together, they were damning. Aunt Linda. Ashley's always been the one who needed more attention, more help, more understanding. And Lauren, well, Lauren's always been expected to be fine with that. Uncle Robert. I remember at Lauren's college graduation dinner, Ashley announced her engagement in the middle of Lauren's toast. Everyone got so excited about Ashley that we never finished celebrating Lauren. Cousin Mike. Growing up, if Lauren got something, Ashley had to get the same thing, but better. If Lauren's birthday present was nice, Ashley's had to be nicer. If Lauren achieved something, Ashley had to achieve something more impressive. And if Lauren ever complained about it, she was told she was being selfish. Grandpa John. I've watched these girls their whole lives. Lauren works hard, accomplishes something, and Ashley swoops in to take credit or outdo it. And the parents just let it happen. Always have. My father was standing now, too, his face red with either embarrassment or anger. I couldn't tell which. But he wasn't moving toward me to stop the presentation. He was frozen, watching his family's dynamics exposed on a screen for 150 wedding guests to witness. But the most devastating part of the presentation wasn't the childhood photos or the family testimonials. It was what came next, and it would make half the guests at Ashley's wedding question whether they'd come to celebrate or witness something much darker. The screen went dark for a moment. Then a new section began. The wedding date. A timeline appeared, documented with screenshots and phone records. February 10th. Lauren sends wedding invitations for September 14th. February 14th. Ashley gets engaged to Trevor. February 16th. Ashley calls Riverside Estate asking about September 14th availability, despite knowing Lauren has booked it. Text messages appeared on screen, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Ashley to Mom. Why does Lauren get to have her wedding first? Just because she got engaged first doesn't mean she owns the whole fall season. Mom to Ashley. You're right, honey. I'll talk to Lauren about moving her date. She'll understand. Ashley to her friends' group chat. Lauren's being so stubborn about the wedding date, like it's just one day. She could pick literally any other Saturday, but she's making this all about her as usual. The room was completely silent now, except for the soft background music. I could hear someone near the back whisper, "Oh my God," as they processed what they were reading. More messages appeared. Mom to Dad. Lauren is being very difficult about this wedding situation. I think we need to have a talk with her about being more flexible and putting family first. Dad to Mom. Lauren's always been the responsible one. She'll come around. She always does. Ashley to Trevor. Don't worry, babe. Lauren will cave. She always does when Mom talks to her. By next week we'll have September 14th, and she'll move her date, and everyone will see that our wedding is better anyway. I watched Trevor's expression change as he read his own fiancé's words, now wife's words, on the screen. The calculation in her messages, the assumption of victory, the complete lack of concern for what she was doing to her sister. The presentation showed my phone records, the call to my mother where she told me to be the bigger person, the call to my father where he'd said he wouldn't take sides but clearly had. The moment when I'd realized that in my family, being the older sister meant being the one who always had to sacrifice so the younger one could shine. Then came a section I'd titled simply, The Pattern. It was a compilation of every major life event I'd had, followed by Ashley's response within weeks or months. My achievements, followed by Ashley's need to match or exceed them. My choices, followed by Ashley's identical or upgraded versions. 28 years of competition I'd never agreed to participate in. I've spent my entire life being told to be the bigger person, my voice said over the montage, to be more understanding, to share, to sacrifice, to let Ashley have what she wants because she needs it more, or because she's more sensitive, or because it would just be easier if I gave in. I was told I was mature enough to handle disappointment, that Ashley wasn't. I was told I was strong enough to be flexible, that Ashley needed things to go her way. I was told I should be grateful to have a sister who looked up to me so much, even when that admiration felt more like theft. So when Ashley decided she wanted to get married on my wedding date, at my wedding venue, with my wedding aesthetic, I did what I've always done. I moved my wedding. I gave her what she wanted, and I decided to give her a gift that showed her exactly what I was giving up and exactly what pattern we've been living in our entire lives. The final section was titled Two Weddings, Split Screen Again. On the left, all of my original wedding plans, dated from September through February, showing months of careful preparation. On the right, Ashley's wedding plans from March through September, showing a carbon copy of every choice I'd made, executed with our parents' financial support and encouragement. At the bottom of the screen, a simple statement. Today is September 14th, the date I chose for my wedding. Ashley is getting married in the venue I booked, with the colors I selected, wearing a dress like the one I found, surrounded by flowers I picked. In 2 weeks, on September 28th, I'll be getting married at a different venue, on a different date, starting a new chapter of my life. And I'll be inviting everyone here to make a choice about which version of this day they want to celebrate. The screen went dark, the lights came up, and 150 wedding guests sat in complete silence, processing what they'd just witnessed. What happened in the following 60 seconds would determine whether Ashley's marriage celebration continued or became the family intervention we'd needed for 28 years. Ashley was the first to break the silence. She stood up so quickly her chair tipped over backward, her face blotchy with fury and embarrassment. "How dare you," she said, her voice shaking. "How dare you ruin my wedding like this?" "I didn't ruin anything," I said calmly. "I just showed everyone the truth. Every photo is real. Every document is dated. Every quote is from actual family members. If the truth ruins your wedding, maybe you should ask yourself why." "You're a vindictive bitch," Ashley spat, and I heard our grandmother gasp at the language. "This is my wedding day, and you made it all about you, just like you always do." "Just like I always do?" I asked, and my voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath now. "Ashley, I've spent 28 years making things about you. Every achievement I've had, you've copied or tried to outdo. Every choice I've made, you've taken as a personal challenge. Every time I've asked you to give me space to have something of my own, I've been told to be more generous. And when you tried to literally take my wedding date, my own parents told me to move it so you could have what you wanted." Our mother found her voice. "Lauren Mitchell, this is completely inappropriate. This is your sister's wedding day, the wedding day she stole from me," I interrupted, and I saw several guests nodding in agreement. The wedding I spent 6 months planning before Ashley even got engaged. The date I chose, the venue I booked, the aesthetic I created, and when I wouldn't give it up fast enough, she tried to book it anyway, and then told me, "May the best wedding win." So I moved my date, and I let her have everything she wanted, and I gave her a gift showing exactly what I was giving her. How is any of that inappropriate? "You embarrassed her in front of everyone," my father said, standing now, his lawyer voice coming out. "This is vindictive and cruel." "This is honest," I corrected. "And if Ashley is embarrassed by the truth of how she's treated me our entire lives, maybe that's something she needs to feel." Trevor was staring at Ashley now, really looking at her, and I could see him processing everything he'd just learned about the woman he'd married 30 minutes ago. "You told me Lauren moved her date because she wanted to have a fall wedding and didn't care about the specific day," he said slowly. "You said she was happy to change it." Ashley's face went even redder. That's not, you're taking everything out of context." "Is any of what was shown in that presentation untrue?" Trevor asked. "Did you or did you not try to book your wedding on your sister's date after you knew she'd already reserved it?" "It's more complicated than that," Ashley said desperately. "Lauren doesn't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said. "I understand that you've spent our entire lives competing with me. I understand that our parents have enabled it by always making me the one who has to compromise. I understand that you thought you'd get away with taking my wedding day just like you've gotten away with taking or copying everything else I've ever had. And I understand that you're upset right now, not because I lied, but because I told the truth." Aunt Linda stood up, and when she spoke, her voice carried across the silent reception hall. "Linda, Michael, I love you both. But Lauren's right. We've all watched this happen for years. Ashley copies everything Lauren does, and you make Lauren accept it. Lauren achieves something, and you expect her to share the spotlight with Ashley. It's been going on since they were children, and we've all been too polite to say anything. But Lauren shouldn't have had to make a wedding presentation to get anyone to acknowledge it. "Linda, this is not your place," my mother said sharply. "It absolutely is my place. I'm family, and I've watched you damage your older daughter for years, trying to protect your younger one from ever experiencing disappointment. And look where it got you. Lauren planned her dream wedding, and Ashley tried to take it. When Lauren very reasonably said no, you told her to move her date, instead of telling Ashley to respect her sister's plans. You've created this situation by refusing to ever set boundaries with Ashley." More family members were nodding. Grandma Rose stood, her voice cracking slightly. "I've been watching this for 28 years. Every birthday, every holiday, every achievement. Ashley gets the attention, the support, the resources. Lauren gets told to be mature about it. I've stayed quiet because it's not my place to parent my grandchildren's parents, but Linda's right. This needed to be said." I watched my parents' faces as their family turned on them, as the pattern they'd created and maintained for decades was called out in front of everyone. My mother looked like she might cry. My father looked angry, but underneath the anger was something else. Shame, maybe, or the beginning of realization. Ashley was crying now, full, ugly sobs, and part of me felt bad for her. But a larger part, the part that had been suppressed and told to be understanding for 28 years, felt satisfied. Let her cry. Let her feel what it's like to have everyone watching while you're exposed and vulnerable. Let her experience one moment of what I'd felt my entire life. Trevor put his hand on Ashley's arm, but she shook him off. "Don't touch me. This is all ruined. My wedding is ruined. Everyone's going to remember this instead of celebrating me. She destroyed everything." "I destroyed nothing," I said. "Your wedding is still beautiful. The venue is gorgeous. The food is delicious. Your dress is stunning. None of that changed. The only thing that changed is now everyone knows the truth about how we got here. And if that ruins your day, that's on you, not me." I picked up my purse and looked at Daniel, who'd been sitting at his seat the entire time, watching me with a mixture of concern and pride. "I think we should go. I've said what I needed to say." As we walked toward the exit, something unexpected happened. People started standing, not to stop us, but to join us. Aunt Linda and Uncle Robert stood first, gathering their things. Then Grandma Rose and Grandpa John. Then Cousin Mike and his wife. Then Daniel's parents, who'd been watching the whole thing with wide eyes. Then more people, friends from college who'd watched Ashley copy my choices for years. Co-workers who'd heard me vent about family dynamics. Distant relatives who'd observed the pattern but never said anything. By the time Daniel and I reached the exit, 42 people were walking out with us, and what had been planned as Ashley's perfect wedding was turning into a referendum on 28 years of family dysfunction. We gathered in the parking lot, this strange collection of wedding guests who'd chosen to leave a reception before the cake was even cut. Aunt Linda hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you for finally saying something. That took guts." "I thought you'd all be angry," I admitted. "Some people probably are," Grandma Rose said. "But the people who matter, the people who've been watching this happen and feeling helpless to stop it, we're not angry. We're relieved someone finally said it out loud." Daniel's mother, Catherine, approached carefully. She'd only met my family a handful of times, but she'd heard plenty of stories. "Lauren, that took incredible courage, and I want you to know that what you showed in there wasn't vindictive. It was truth. If Ashley and your parents can't handle truth, that's their problem, not yours." We stood in that parking lot for over an hour, talking about family patterns, about golden children and scapegoats, about the damage done by parents who refuse to see one child's behavior because they're so focused on protecting them from consequences. It felt like group therapy, this strange parking lot gathering of people who'd all witnessed the same dysfunction but never had permission to name it. My phone started buzzing. Text messages, mostly from people still inside the reception. From Trevor's brother. "I don't know you well, but what you did in there needed to happen. Trevor's been seeing a different side of Ashley lately, and your presentation explained a lot. Thank you for being honest." From my college roommate who'd stayed inside. "Half the remaining guests are talking about how they've noticed the pattern, too. Your mom looks destroyed, but your dad is actually arguing with people who are defending you. This is wild." From Ashley's maid of honor, who I barely knew. "I've only known Ashley for 2 years, but even I've seen her obsess over you. She talks about you constantly, about beating you at things, about proving she's better. I thought it was just normal sibling rivalry, but after seeing that presentation, I realize it's way more than that. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." 2 hours after the presentation, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but Daniel encouraged me to hear her out. I put it on speaker so he could hear too. "Lauren, you need to come back here and apologize to your sister," Mom said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. You humiliated her on her wedding day, in front of everyone. How could you be so cruel?" "How could you tell me to move my wedding date so Ashley could have what she wanted?" I countered. "How could you watch her try to steal my wedding day and tell me to be the bigger person instead of telling her to respect my plans?" "That's not, you're oversimplifying." "I'm not. I have the text messages, Mom. I have the phone calls. You told me to move my date because Ashley wanted it, and I should be mature enough to handle disappointment. You never once told Ashley that her behavior was unreasonable." Silence on the line, then quieter. "We were trying to avoid conflict. By making me the one who always sacrifices? By making me the one who always has to understand and compromise and be flexible? You didn't avoid conflict, Mom. You just delayed it for 28 years until it exploded at Ashley's wedding. What do you want from us, Lauren? You got your revenge. You ruined your sister's special day. Are you happy now?" This wasn't about revenge. This was about making sure that for once, just once, everyone saw what I've been living with my entire life. And I want you to know that in 2 weeks, I'm getting married. Daniel and I are having our wedding on September 28th. You're invited. Dad's invited. Ashley's invited. But if you come, you're going to watch me have my day without making it about Ashley. Without asking me to share the spotlight or compromise or be understanding. My one day, that's all I want. Can you give me that? More silence. Then, "I don't know if Ashley will want to come." "That's Ashley's choice, but I'm inviting her. I'm inviting all of you. And whoever shows up, shows up. Whoever doesn't, doesn't. But I'm done organizing my life around what Ashley wants or what you think I should sacrifice to keep the peace." I hung up before she could respond. Over the next 2 weeks, something interesting happened. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. People who'd been at Ashley's wedding, people who'd heard about what happened, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all reaching out with the same message. They wanted to come to my wedding. Aunt Linda called to say she and Uncle Robert were absolutely attending. Grandma Rose called to ask if she could bring Grandpa John's sister, who'd heard the story and wanted to show support. Cousin Mike called to ask if his 3 kids could be in the wedding party because they need to see what it looks like when someone stands up for themselves. But more surprising were the calls from people who'd originally RSVP'd to Ashley's wedding. Trevor's parents called to say they'd be at mine. 3 of Ashley's bridesmaids called to ask if they could come to mine instead. Friends from high school who'd watched Ashley copy me for years called to say they wished they'd spoken up sooner, but they wanted to be there for my actual wedding day. Daniel and I had originally planned for 120 guests. By the time September 28th arrived, we had 167 RSVPs. 89 of those were people who'd originally been invited to Ashley's wedding, including both sets of grandparents, 4 aunts and uncles, 6 cousins, and 3 of her bridesmaids who'd quit her wedding party after the reception disaster. The venue, a beautiful garden estate different from Riverside, was decorated in colors I'd chosen independently: deep burgundy and champagne gold, a fall palette that was rich and warm, and nothing like the sage green and dusty rose that Ashley had copied. My dress was different from what I'd originally chosen, a ball gown with a beaded bodice that made me feel like a princess. Everything about this wedding was authentically mine, chosen because I loved it, not because I'd planned it first and was defending my choices. The morning of my wedding, I got a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I realized it was from Trevor. "Lauren, this is Trevor. I wanted you to know that Ashley and I are in counseling. After your presentation, I started asking questions about her behavior and our relationship, and we've uncovered a lot of issues that need to be addressed. I'm not sure if our marriage will survive this, honestly, but I wanted to thank you for opening my eyes. I went into that wedding not knowing who I was really marrying. Now I know. Whatever happens, I'm grateful for the truth." I showed the message to Daniel as my bridesmaids did my makeup. "Do you think Ashley will come today?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me hopes she does, part of me hopes she doesn't. I invited her because she's my sister and I love her, even after everything, but I won't be devastated if she's not here." My parents did come. They arrived early, looking uncomfortable and uncertain. My mother hugged me carefully, like she was afraid I'd break or reject her. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Thank you for coming," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I'd wanted them here. "Lauren, I've been thinking about what you said, about the patterns, about how we've handled things with you and Ashley." My father cleared his throat. "You were right. We've expected you to be the mature one, the flexible one, and we never asked Ashley to extend the same courtesy to you. That wasn't fair." It wasn't a complete apology. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of 28 years of favoritism, but it was a start, and that was more than I'd had 2 weeks ago. Ashley didn't come. I'd known she probably wouldn't, but I'd hoped. Despite everything, despite the patterns and the competition and the wedding date theft, she was still my little sister. I'd still wanted her there, but her absence didn't ruin my day. If anything, it made it clearer. This wedding, this celebration, was about me and Daniel and the life we were building together. It wasn't about proving I was better than Ashley or winning some competition I'd never agreed to enter. It was just about being happy, on my own terms, surrounded by people who actually wanted to celebrate me. The ceremony was beautiful. The reception was joyful. And when it came time for toasts, Aunt Linda stood up and said something I'd never forget. I've known Lauren since she was born. I've watched her navigate an impossible situation with grace for her entire life. Today, she's not navigating anything. She's not compromising. She's not being the bigger person. She's just being herself, celebrating her love for Daniel, surrounded by people who've chosen to be here, and that's exactly how it should be. The applause was thunderous. 3 months after my wedding, I got a letter from Ashley. Not a text, not a call, but an actual handwritten letter delivered to my condo. "Lauren, I've been in therapy since the wedding. Mine and yours. Trevor and I are separated. He moved out last month because he said he couldn't trust me after realizing how much I'd manipulated and copied and competed. My therapist has helped me see that I've spent my entire life defining my worth by comparing myself to you. If I could match you or beat you, I was valuable. If I couldn't, I was worthless. It was never about actually wanting what you had. It was about needing to prove I was as good as you. Better if possible. I'm sorry for trying to take your wedding day. I'm sorry for copying your life. I'm sorry for making everything a competition you never asked to be part of. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But I wanted you to know that I finally see what I've been doing, and I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not measuring myself against you. Maybe someday we can have a relationship that's not based on me trying to win against you. But I understand if that's not possible. Thank you for the wake-up call, even though it was the most humiliating experience of my life. I needed it. I just wish I'd realized it 28 years sooner. I read the letter 3 times, then showed it to Daniel. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think my sister might finally be growing up," I said. "And I think maybe, eventually, we might be able to be sisters without it being a competition." "Are you going to respond?" "Not yet. She needs time to figure out who she is without me as a measuring stick, and I need time to figure out who I am without always bracing for the next time she tries to take something from me." But I kept the letter, and 6 months later, when Ashley's divorce was final and she'd moved to Portland to start over, I sent her a card, just a simple "thinking of you" message. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement that I'd hurt her and that maybe, someday, there could be something between us that wasn't based on competition or copying or fighting for our parents' attention. It's been 2 years since my wedding, 2 years since Ashley's disastrous reception, where I played a sister's journey and exposed 28 years of family dysfunction. My relationship with my parents is better, though still complicated. They've started going to therapy too, working through their patterns of favoritism and their enabling of Ashley's behavior. It's slow progress, but it's progress. Ashley and I text occasionally, brief messages, nothing deep, but it's more than we had before. She's building a life in Portland that has nothing to do with me. She's dating someone new, and when she told me about him, she didn't mention his job or his achievements or how he compared to Daniel. She just said he made her laugh. That felt like growth. And me? I'm happy. Daniel and I bought a house. We're talking about kids. I got promoted at work. I took up painting as a hobby, something I'd always wanted to try but never had because I was too busy either achieving things that Ashley would copy or managing her copying of things I'd already achieved. I don't regret the presentation. I don't regret exposing the patterns. I don't regret making Ashley face the truth about her behavior at her own wedding. It was brutal, yes. It was public and humiliating and harsh. But it was also necessary. Sometimes the only way to break a pattern that's been reinforced for decades is to make it impossible to ignore. My sister set her wedding on the same day as mine on purpose, so I moved mine, attended hers, and gave her a gift that showed everyone exactly who she'd always been. It cost me a relationship with my sister for 2 years. It strained my relationship with my parents. It created family drama that's still being processed in therapy sessions and carefully worded holiday cards. But it also freed me from always being the bigger person, freed me from constantly managing Ashley's feelings at the expense of my own, freed me from a family dynamic that had been slowly suffocating me for 28 years. And that freedom? That was worth every uncomfortable moment, every angry phone call, every family member who thought I'd gone too far. Because finally, for the first time in my life, I'd put myself first. And the sky didn't fall. The world didn't end. I didn't lose everyone who mattered. I just lost the version of my family that had never worked anyway. And I gained the space to build something better. If Lauren's decision to expose family patterns instead of staying silent resonated with you, hit that like button. My favorite moment was when 42 guests walked out of Ashley's wedding to support Lauren in the parking lot. What was yours? Drop it in the comments. And if you've ever been the scapegoat in a family of golden children, know that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Subscribe for more stories about people who stopped being the bigger person and started being themselves.